Okay, I'm here with my second interview with Miss Benson. She agreed to do this video interview with me, so let's go ahead and get started. Do you shop at H&M, Gap, or Walmart for your clothes? If so, how often?
Sometimes yes, when there are good sales. So based on when they have good sales.
Okay. Do you know where the clothes you buy from these stores are made?
Honestly, if I read the tag, yes, but I don't pay too much attention to it.
Gotcha. Do you know what neo-imperialism is?
It sounds like taking over businesses in the current age or something like that.
Okay, it's actually pretty...
Or dominating a business in like the current age.
Yeah, that's pretty right on, pretty close. Neo-imperialism is considered modern-day imperialism, so it's basically like what you were saying, and in relation, it's kind of how you're saying with businesses. That brings me into my next question. Did you know that large corporations like H&M, Walmart, and Gap imperialize small third-world countries like Bangladesh and Cambodia in order to make cheap, affordable clothes?
I did know that occurs.
Okay. So the next question. In 2013, a building collapse in Bangladesh killed 1,127 garment workers. This created an international outcry about the human toll of making cheap, fast fashion clothes for wealthier nations like the U.S. The building collapse was an H&M sweatshop whose building lacked basic working conditions such as fire escapes. These workers are paid about an average of like 13 cents an hour. And my question for this one is, do you feel like this is okay? Do you think there should be any changes to the treatment or pay of these workers by these companies? If so, what changes? Because for how little they're paid and the working conditions, and a lot of them are forced to do a lot of overtime. So do you feel there should be changes, or that this is okay, or just kind of your take on that?
Yeah. So first off, I think it's really sad, and I don't think it's okay for those work conditions. I do think it's okay for them to employ third world countries because some of them, it's the only opportunity they have to make money for their families. So I think that's acceptable. But to have them work under unsafe conditions is not okay. And I think there should be maybe more of a global standard, or at least a national standard to safety and well-being of workers. I think that should be across any country and any business.
Okay. One of the things, after this incident, H&M along with Gap and Walmart signed an act with the Human Rights Watch saying that they'd revise their buildings and equip them with proper work conditions like a fire escape and like fire escapes. And since 2013, there have been little to no changes in these large companies' modern-day sweatshops. How do you feel about this? Do you feel there should be changes to this after they signed a treaty and pretty much nothing happened? What's your take on that?
Yes, and honestly, I think it might be an interesting agenda item for our new president, whoever that might be, because we are a country that takes from these sweatshops for our own, clothing and needs, and so I think we have a right to be, we have an obligation to be attentive to the fact that the poor conditions are still existing and there's not been any change.
Okay.
So I think it'd be a good political thing for maybe the, well, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's a good point. After knowing all of this new information, has your opinion on large apparel companies, I'm sorry, I'm going to reread that. That got a little mixed up. After knowing all of this new information, has your opinion on large apparel companies such as H&M, Gap, and Walmart changed? Now that you know this, will you stop shopping at these companies, or will you continue to, or what's your take on that?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that I learned something from it, so thank you for sharing that. I think that I'm more sensitive than I was about 10 minutes ago to what's going on there. And I think I'll take that into consideration when I shop at these stores and I'll look at it a little differently than I had in the past. So I think it has changed at least my sensitivity to it.
Yeah.
To be, my obligation too, to be a little bit more aware of where things are coming from.
Yeah. And then for the last question, this kind of ties in because a lot of people don't know about these things and what happens here. So do you feel that the public should be informed of this before purchasing their clothes from these stores? Because some people do know, some people don't know, but do you feel like there should be kind of like a notice, or is it something you should like look up on your own, or what's your take on that?
I think there's kind of a fair balance to it. I mean, like I said earlier, I think that it's okay for our clothing to come from these countries, but it's not okay if they're treated if they're allowed to work or forced to work in unsafe environments. That's not okay. So I think it would be fine if there was a public notice that, just kind of for a cause. And it is also the obligation of the shopper to know where they're getting their goods from. So I think it's a combination of both.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your time, and I really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Yep. I'm here with Isabella and her dog for my third interview, and she's agreed to do this video interview with me, so let's go ahead and get started. Do you shop at H&M, Gap, or Walmart for your clothes? If so, how often?
I shop at Gap and H&M whenever I go to the mall with my friends, which is like maybe once every 2 weeks.
Okay. Do you know where the clothes that you buy from these stores are made?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you know what neo-imperialism is?
Well, I know imperialism is taking over another country. I would guess neo-imperialism would have something to do with that.
Yeah, that's pretty close. So neo-imperialism is considered as modern-day imperialism. So pretty much the same thing. It's just imperialism in today's world. So that kind of leads into the next question. Did you know that large corporations like H&M, Walmart, and Gap imperialize small third-world countries like Bangladesh and Cambodia in order to make cheap, affordable clothes?
I did not know that.
Okay. So in 2013, a building collapse in Bangladesh killed 1,127 garment workers, creating an international outcry about the human toll of making cheap, fast fashion clothes for wealthier nations like the U.S. This was an H&M sweatshop whose building lacked basic working conditions such as fire escapes. These workers are paid about an average of 13 cents an hour. Do you feel that this is okay, or do you feel that there should be any changes to the treatment or pay of these workers by these companies? If so, what changes?
So, that was a big question.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Can you repeat what you're asking me?
So basically, there was a building collapse in Bangladesh in 2013. And all of these workers are paid extremely cheap. Only about 13 cents an hour is the average. And they're paid in these really, really awful work conditions. They don't have fire escapes. They don't have any breaks. There's no AC. It's really hot. And a lot of them are forced to do a lot of overtime, so they'll be working a lot more than they should. Some of them are forced, some of them aren't, because this is really the only job they have in these smaller third world countries. So my question to you is, do you feel like that's okay, or do you feel like there should be changes to this by the companies, or how do you feel about that?
Okay, so I definitely don't think that's fair. I think they should be making like equal pay as like a normal working job would, like in that country. So I definitely don't think the bad working conditions are fair, and I think that's up to the companies that they need to set like standards and regulations, and maybe like a law should be passed or something. But that's my take on it.
So after this incident, H&M along with Gap and Walmart signed an act with Human Rights Watch saying that they'd revise their buildings and equip them with proper working conditions, like fire escapes. Since 2013, there have still been little to no changes in these large companies' modern-day sweatshops. How do you feel about this? Do you feel that there should be changes to this? Because basically, over the past 3 years, after they signed a treaty, pretty much like a pact with Human Rights Watch, there have been little to no changes, so really nothing has happened when they said that they would go and change everything. So how do you feel like this? Is this okay? Should something be done about this? What's your take on that?
I definitely think that's not okay. If they are making a law or regulation, they should definitely stick to that. I think that's a flaw by them, so I think there needs to be reformation to that. So, yeah.
Okay. So after knowing all this new information, has your opinion on large apparel companies such as H&M, Gap, and Walmart changed? Now that you know this, will you stop shopping at these companies or continue to, or what? What's your take on that?
Well, I definitely question now where my clothes are coming from. I've never thought about it in that way, because it's so accessible and easy for us to just go and buy a shirt for cheap at H&M. So knowing this information to try to I guess you could boycott it, but I don't know if I would stop shopping there. It just makes me kind of question it, and I think bring the issue to a larger attention. I feel like a lot of people don't know about it.
Okay, so that perfectly kind of ties into the last question. Do you feel that the public should be informed of this before purchasing their clothes from these stores? Do you think there should be kind of a notice or what? Because I know a lot of people like you didn't know about this, didn't really know about this until buying clothes or until someone informed them. So do you feel like it should be kind of brought to the public eye, or what's your take on that?
Yeah, I definitely think public education is important in like a society, and especially like with matters like this. So I definitely think that public should be educated, just like with everything, like food and like clothes. Like they should definitely be educated where their stuff is coming from, because I think like a lot of people overlook and take for granted like where their stuff is coming from and not realizing the effects it has on other people in other countries. So I think public education is definitely a great start to like solving this issue.
Okay. Well, thank you. That helps a lot. And thank you for your time. Neo-imperialism is negatively impacting today's society in more than a few ways. Large companies such as H&M, Gap, and Walmart using sweatshops in third world countries to produce and sell their clothes for less is not only morally wrong, but it should be considered illegal. These companies have taken the lives of many of their workers without being held accountable. Walmart is more than taking advantage of their workers in Asia. Most Cambodians in Walmart supplier factories work under highly exploitive contracts that leave them susceptible to unsafe work conditions, low wages, denial of benefits, and harsh penalties for engaging in union activity, including termination of employment. This includes forced overtime during Cambodia's hottest season, leading to mass fainting episodes resulting from overexertion and inadequate nutrition. This is just one of many examples of the awful treatment of these workers found in my provided sources. These large companies that are using neo-imperialism by sweatshops in third world countries are a hindrance to our society, and they must be brought to justice. Human lives are not worth the cheap cost of clothes in our society today. It is morally and legally wrong for us to force these workers to work overtime in these dangerous work conditions and to pay these brave workers no more than an average of about $140 a month. This issue must be brought to light and fixed. Do you know where your clothes came from?